Well, I think it would be appropriate first of all to mention that I was arriving in Myanmar in August 1990 after the events of 1988 when there had been considerable amount of first the movement of the students, then the monks, and the political parties that had been suppressed for very long in Myanmar, which was Burma till then, to try and bring democracy back to that country. And with the coup that was conducted, and I use this word very advisedly because effectively the military had been ruling Myanmar since 1962. But effectively what happened was that they came back in uniform in 1988 and established a new government which they called the SLOC, and this government was brutal in suppressing the voice of democracy. India had taken a very strong position in favor of the democratic movement, and the elections of 1990 had happened before I arrived. The results were there. But the SLOC went back on its original promise of permitting the elections to determine the future course of the governance of the country. So when I landed out there, symbolically, let me put it this way, the rough landing was that when we were coming in to the Rangoon airport, which now had become Yangon rather than Rangoon, the aircraft which had its landing gear down, it was the middle of the monsoon, suddenly we came out through the clouds into sunshine and we could see the runway. I was sitting on the window, on the left hand side window seat, and I could see the runway. The landing gear I could make out was down, and the aircraft was coming in to land, and then suddenly it took off. And we wondered what had happened, you know, it was a very scary moment. And the pilot took the aircraft off and then took a swing to the right, and we came over the famous or infamous insane jail, which is a round, circular jail. And we were in sunshine, but now we could see a very thick cloud cover over the airport and lightning, and so that now the pilot announced saying that there was an electrical storm, and the landing systems in the Yangon airport were not modern enough and sophisticated enough, so he had to take off. But a few minutes later, the storm had passed and we landed. So that was the symbolical side of it. What was more interesting was that I was welcomed by the Foreign Office, told immediately that I would be presenting my credentials that particular Thursday, that week Thursday, but that came and went and nothing happened. And I was there for almost a month and 10 odd days before I was permitted to present my credentials. So there was a kind of hiatus in the relationship, which was being reflected in the manner in which I was being treated. It was all politeness, but no action was being taken. And obviously, if you had not presented your credentials, you couldn't really function officially, particularly interaction with the government and the people, etc. Funnily enough, I was told that as the Chinese ambassador was away, till he didn't come back, there was no likelihood of my being invited to present my credentials. This I was informed by a good friend who was the Philippine ambassador in Yangon, who had served in India before. And it's happened that way. But in addition, I had to make the efforts with these people in a very limited context, because our own government, this is the VP Singh government in that time, had put such strong restrictions on my interactions with the government in power that effectively I stood neutralized in the earlier part of my stay there, and I had to slowly break through with my own government as to how we can continue to do some business with a neighboring country. You can't have no relations with a neighboring country with whom you have over 1,600 kilometers of land border and a very large maritime border. But there it was.